No. You'll just have to type everything to Patrick and then he'll, damn it.
I guess she can just sit this one out.
Maybe. We might have some questions, but she's just not getting her sound. So anyway, we're ready to go. So we're going to start.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, call this meeting to order. Presently, we're missing one counselor, Counselor Schulte, but he might pop in. We don't know. Otherwise, everybody else is here. Time for the open forum. Does anyone have anything to share for open forum, and or any of you want to say anything? You're all on the agenda, so I figured we'd be talking then.
Should I say something now?
No, you're on the agenda.
I could talk during that time.
Yeah. I mean, about
Just
what
wanna
you're
know
on,
when I could talk.
about what you're on the agenda for, unless you got
Or she
something
wants
else you
to.
want to talk
I
about.
just want to say thank you.
Oh, okay. Great.
Can you come up to the microphone?
Yeah,
State your name.
Twice, maybe?
get that on the record. Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll close the open forum, going to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has typical 3 items: the approval of this meeting's agenda, the previous meeting minutes, and the payment of the bills since our previous meeting. Unless someone has something they'd like to pull for consideration, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. All opposed? All right, carries. So, we're gonna move right along to the first thing on our agenda. Ah, Craig's here, good. Glad you made it. We brought something for you.
We did?
Yeah. That's the
The
we
royal
in this
we.
one. Yeah.
We'll move right on to the Snowmobile Club's pull tabs. So if you guys wanna come up, we might have some questions.
Sure.
Sure, Becky.
So the Cook County Snowmobile Club is, they're making a request to run the operations for pull tabs at the Birch Terrace, which is a licensed bar. This requires us to pass a license that then gets pushed to the state for final approval. They put in the application here, which I don't know. I think that this one must have just kind of, maybe it has all the things checked that it needs, but it looked like there were some things that were missing. But I wonder if that was just like an Adobe problem. So I'm assuming that that all that would be filled in if it needed to be filled in.
No, there's some missing bits.
I figure that's probably an Adobe problem. Like when
If you're concerned about the bank account information, I'm sure you can ask, but
Yes, I have
otherwise.
that.
Yeah, I don't think we need that in a public meeting, unless other people want to put money into that account for you. So we have the application in front of us. This has been done before, and I'm curious if anyone has any questions or any line of discussion with these guys who came to the meeting to talk about it, or if you feel strongly enough to approve it.
Who, I think we talked about this before, but who does the pull tabs now?
Brainerd hockey team, I believe, is who has them in the Birch Terrace because nobody in Cook County has a gambling license yet.
Oh, so, but it didn't go to Brainerd, they were just running the.
Dave runs it for the Brainerd hockey team.
They
Like
they get proceeds.
They
So
get
it
the
was
proceeds.
actually going
Yeah,
to the
the proceeds
Brainerd
go to the Brainerd
hockey.
hockey
Okay.
team as it stands right now.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, the
Okay.
state would really like to see charitable gambling in Cook County again, so American Legion had it for
Right.
quite a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we would be the only ones at this point, so they were pretty excited to hear, because they make more money than anybody, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on this application? Any strong feelings about it?
I'd make a motion to approve the Cook County Snowmobile Club's request to take over the pull tab operation at Birch Terrace.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'd love to know how much you guys raise from doing something like this, but that's all.
So do we,
Yeah, exactly, right? Totally.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can talk later.
right.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right,
Great.
so you'll follow up Yeah, sign
Thank
that.
you.
I love the cover page stuff too, when it's all done.
Oh, yeah, I can
Yep,
pull that.
yep,
Yep.
yep, great.
So we'll follow up with you,
Thank
get all the rest of the stuff taken care of,
Yep.
get it sent off to the state, should be good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so now, the next thing we have on the agenda, equipment purchases. So, as we discussed in our budget conversations, we have been setting aside money for a significant amount of time to make some major replacements in our fleet of vehicles. One of these is a ladder truck for the fire department, another is a skid steer that we've been kind of limping along on the old one for the last several years, and then the other is a purchase of a loader so that we make sure that we have consistent service from a loader in the winter. So the fire department put a memo in our packet and then put in the machine that they would like, or the vehicle that they would like to purchase, in addition to some comparables for us to take a look at. And you can see that we're getting a pretty good deal on the 2004 truck, which is the one that they're looking to get. And also, it's not halfway across the country, which is also a benefit. So,
Considering they'll probably have to drive it here, yeah.
yeah, for sure. We're not gonna put it on a truck.
Yeah, we have to go get it, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a fun drive. So, does anyone have any questions? We're gonna go through these one at a time. Does anybody have any questions regarding the fire truck? Or, I think that the memo put everything in there pretty well as far as the rationale behind the purchase and how it's going to go through comparables, etc. This is going to be a long-term service vehicle. We're looking at 15 to 20 years. During that time, we'll be putting away money as well to be, planning for its replacement again. So, any questions about the ladder truck?
No, because this is totally the one we talked about in more.
Yeah, it's the exact
Just
same
more
one.
detail,
So
yep.
we kind of went through it.
Yep.
Okay, for me then.
Do you want to do them all separately?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd make a motion to approve the
Purchase.
2004 Pearson Forcer 75-foot quint from the city of Richfield for $75,000.
Hot damn. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just want to say that I appreciate that the guys put all of the time into getting some comparables and actually shopping around to see what they could find.
Mhm.
And boy, I think we lucked out for finding this one, to tell you the truth. So,
Yeah.
good stuff. Any other comments? All in favor of purchase?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, so then we're gonna move right along. Street equipment purchases, so we've got Lenny on the screen here. We've got two items here. We got a skid steer. This is a brand new skid steer from Bobcat, Tri-State Bobcat. As we discussed in our budget meeting, this one's a bigger machine than what we have. It has more capabilities. It also, since there's a shortage of equipment available, it's kind of what we can get, meets our needs, and also has a few bells and whistles, so that's all hunky-dory too. So we're looking at purchase price for this one of $76,670 and change. Does anyone have any questions for Lenny on this one? Or Lenny, do you have anything you want to say about it?
I don't have anything to say about it.
He's just here for reference if we need him.
That includes the snow blower, right?
Correct. The snow blower is included in that bid.
Gotcha.
Okay, so and this one just has another same thing from a different dealer? Is that why there's two?
We try to get multiple quotes whenever we're looking for something this expensive. The reason we're going with this one is availability, not price. Like the other quotes are for months out, 6 to 9 months out.
But
Yep.
it's the same thing anyways, right? For the
It's
most part?
Slightly different options-wise.
Oh, okay. Oh, this one had less, the other, yeah, okay, that's.
The one
right.
that's on the lot's got a couple more
More,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the
About-
Cadillac range instead of the. Yeah, so that one's the one that's available, and, yeah, it has a few extra bells and whistles, make it a little bit a little bit nicer to have, to run as well. So that's what we have available to us. Any other questions for this, or thoughts about this one?
I mean, I'll make the motion, but I just, in comparing the two, I mean, even like the part number call out, like the strobe light kit on this one from St. Cloud, it's $263 for the exact same part number, and on the one from Little Canada, it's $435 for the exact same thing. I mean, which I guess if it's there, but
Ask him to price match, Lenny.
I don't think that seems too unreasonable for a brand new unit with a
This one
snowblower.
doesn't have a, oh yeah, this one does have
Well,
a snow, no, it doesn't have snow.
There's no snow blower on that one.
No,
So that would be an extra,
there's no snow plow in this other bid, is there?
No blower.
the 62
Or
one?
Snow blower.
Yeah, so the 62,000 one would really be 67.
No, there's a separate page with the snowblower on it, but
Oh, yeah, there you go.
where did I
might not be in there.
I don't have it.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
And that was
Oh, yeah.
$5,000?
Yeah, it's 5,000 bucks.
$5,100, so.
58. No, 58 for the performance.
So then we're getting a lot closer.
Yeah, they're not that far apart.
Yeah, we're really talking
Yeah, I mean, it's not a,
a couple $1,000 for
for the.
What's
extra
our-
flashy bits and.
What's our plans for the 2001 Bobcat? Is it a Bobcat that we have now?
Yeah,
What's our plans for that? Keep it or
we'll probably
sell it or?
Yeah, we'll probably sell it.
Okay.
So there you go. That took care of that, right?
Yep. So when you actually dig down, maybe some price matching that needs to be done, but other than that, they're really only a couple $1,000 apart, and we can get this one so it can be in service for this winter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
availability is the issue here.
So, and we really want to make sure we're ready for this winter.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's, yeah, availability issues for all this kind of stuff is crazy, so.
Did anybody do a motion? Or did I just say?
You
You
did.
said you were going to, so
Kinda.
everybody was being polite.
No, yet, not yet.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the T66, T4 Bobcat compact track loader and snow blower from Tri-State Bobcat in Little Canada.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Can I play with it a little bit when it gets here? Just
No.
see if it
No.
works? Just kidding, just kidding,
You can ride it. and
kinda kidding, kidding.
parade.
Yeah, right.
In January, if you're looking for a job, give us a call.
Yeah, right, start scraping snow. All right, so there's a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. All right, wonderful. Moving on to the second part of this. So the second part of this, I was corrected that Thorson is still doing business, but we're looking to get our own loader in this calendar year. So what we looked around and we looked at a bunch of different loaders that were in the size range of what we're used to. And we found this bid for a 2019 John Deere 644K, which is a little bit heavier than the one that we've used in the past.
Which is the goal.
Which is the goal. And also has the workable amount of hours that we were looking for, like the range of hours we were looking for. And we knew this was going to be an expensive one. So we're looking at this as also one of those items that we're going to be putting money away for replacement eventually. And we're expecting to get many years of service out of. So we're looking at this 2019 machine, which has a price tag of $167,000. So it's pretty spendy. But we looked around a fair amount. Something to keep in mind that a new 644K or something equivalent to that would be in the near $300,000 range if we were looking to buy something new. So considering we've got something coming 4 years old and we can get it for a little bit more than half the price, that's
Also note, he says we do not have a new unit in stock, nor are we able to order one now.
son of a frazzin and nazareth.
So we looked at purchasing new, purchasing used, and leasing, just to price out all those options, and purchasing used is clearly the way to go here.
Yeah.
Leasing
okay.
is 50 grand a year and up.
Yep.
Purchasing new is 300,000 and not necessarily a lot more life than we're gonna use it, because we're not gonna put a ton of hours on it. So this one is available. It's the one that we like in terms of options, but we do need to go look at it still. So this would just be an authorization to purchase if, when staff goes and looks at it, it is something that they're still interested in, because it has quite a few hours for a 3-year-old machine.
So what we would be doing for this one is we would be issuing a motion to approve the purchase pending acceptance by staff. Inspection and acceptance by staff.
So do they track repair on these like they do with cars now?
Well, I'm sure they do.
So they do, for sure.
Well, if it's originated from this dealer, I'm sure
They all do there.
it's fairly new.
Have you seen the maintenance records, Lenny, or they're available to look at?
I don't know if their maintenance records are available to look at or not. It's actually coming from a paper mill in Wisconsin, Chippewa Falls. So it's been into the dealer down there and looked at, and now we have a brief inspection report on it. Says it has some slack in the pins, but with 8,000 hours, you're gonna have some slack in the pins, so. It's a matter of looking it over and see what that actually is.
Look at it with a critical eye.
Is this, if this is a new enough piece of equipment, is this one now affected by computers and that kind of programming in it as far as
Yes.
operation
Staff
and
fluid.
maintenance
I'm
and
sure
all
it
of
is.
that? I mean, that seems
Yes.
to be triggering a lot of issues with this kind of equipment. Like things-
Yes, we will be using DEF, it's got the missions on it, and it's all computer controlled.
Part of the issue with that is if you try to do your own maintenance, which we're really not gonna try to do on this piece of equipment very often, so.
Mostly I just have heard from people that then, because of the computers in there, something, according to the computer, is amiss, it shuts it down.
It goes into limp mode.
So I just wondered if that would
Like a
cause
vehicle
us
works.
artificial problems, because we probably can't get things work done locally, right?
Right. Duluth is
The
where,
closest.
one of the reasons we're looking at only these two brands is because there's service available in Duluth.
Mhm.
Does McCoy have, I'm assuming they have mobile repair trucks like Ziegler does?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen them around like I do see Ziegler around.
Well, Ziegler comes up like every couple weeks in the summer to fix the county stuff.
I think Belch has a big John Deere though, so talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it, you put all this stuff on a contract then?
I don't know, we'd have to figure that out.
I think we'll probably just request service when needed.
My only, I mean,
So,
yeah. go
I have
ahead.
the question I had when we talked about this at the budgeting meeting, I wasn't sure if this is something we're bringing on this year or not, but apparently it is, so I was confused about whether we're not requesting the use of Thorson's loader for this winter then, is that, or is this,
We are requesting it, but if we buy this, then we won't.
okay. All right, that's the confusion I had
Cover
over
our
it at this
butts.
point. Well, I was just questioning it, because I received a phone call questioning what we were doing, and, I might have misspoke, because I thought we were using, or gonna lease the current loader that we've been using, but obviously if we buy this, we're not going to. Another thing to think about though, Lenny, is also the condition of the tires on this rig.
right, they're at 40% is my understanding,
40%,
yeah,
because they're very expensive.
right.
And we need, if you don't have good tires, you're not gonna have good traction. I don't care how big a rig you buy, so
Right,
you're gonna need good tires. So that's something to probably consider if you're, want to move a lot of snow.
Yeah.
So I know like the used option, the not ability to buy a new one or even lease a new one, right? Because they don't exist and you can't order one to lease or buy outright.
New one, yeah.
A new one, is there, did you, I mean, I know this is convenient if it's close by, but, I mean, again, I don't know that much stuff about it except for the stuff that I have, and like 8,000 hours is a lot of hours. I mean, without looking at it, I guess it's hard, but did you do any searching elsewhere for like some comparables?
I did look at quite a few loaders, you know, yeah. Those would be something we would have to go drive around and look at, you know.
Sure.
Most of them are quite a ways away.
Yeah,
Ziegler-
fly around and look at
Yeah.
it.
Ziegler had nothing used in a 950 size to give us, you know.
Okay,
Nothing even close to what we were looking for.
okay.
And other municipalities like cities, parking lots, malls, those places, they have loaders, but they use them for snow removal, so they're not selling them.
They don't sell them
They
for
don't sell
hours
them,
either. They
you
keep
know,
them for a
that's-
long time.
That's the other issue, I think, is finding one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would be looking at this pending inspection.
Okay.
So, and that's a recommendation that we're getting from the maintenance department. So, anybody have a strong feeling about this?
Have them throw in new tires and then,
Yeah, ask them. It can't
I'm
hurt.
sure they'd be happy to for whatever they cost.
Well, it's kind of
I did
it's
it,
expensive.
I did
so-
it when I had my telehandler, I said, no, you couldn't send it out to, you know, the $7,000 worth
It's-
of tires.
It's fair. I mean, it's a fair ask. The worst they can say is no.
Well, Ray, you don't get what you don't
So-
ask for.
Or, you know.
This is a delivered price also.
Check out a price.
Okay.
Delivered?
Check out.
Yes.
That's fine. They can put new tires on it before they deliver it.
I mean, you know, just, you know, when you go look at it, Lenny, I mean, you know what to look for, I guess, so just, I think it's fine if you've looked around and either availability side, like we can't find the perfect lineup, but this one seems like it would do. I already.
This
paid
one has a
$2
couple
promotion on
options that
this
we're
one.
looking for, which is kind of hard to find in loaders. So, you know, it has a high lift, so it lifts basically 14 inches higher than the standard loader. And dual differential lock, so we can lock up both front and back. So, there's a lot of loaders with diff locks, but not very many high lift.
Okay.
Handy piece of equipment. Well,
Didn't I make the motion on the other two? Somebody else needs to make the motion.
yeah, somebody else can do it.
That's a lot of money for me to.
Yeah, for real. It's gonna, people are
Passing
gonna
out.
start talking.
Well, I'd make the motion then for the, is it the 2019 John Deere
Yep,
644K?
that is correct. So there's a motion for the, to
Oh,
authorize
for
the,
the-
authorize the
authorize
purchase
the
of the John Deere 644K upon inspection.
Yeah, for inspection by.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
At the shop.
Happy shopping. Yes, exactly. Take a break after a while here.
So is this, it's not at McCoy yet? They took it on trade, is what I'm assuming.
Right, so
Do they have it?
if we say that we want it, they will bring it to Duluth and
Oh,
we'll
okay.
look at it.
So you've gotta
That
go,
was-
you've gotta go look at it, at where it sits now then.
They can go look into
They
the.
said they might move it to Duluth for us to
Oh,
look
okay.
at.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
said, I pretty much told them we need to look at it before we decide to buy it, so.
Okay.
For sure. Sounds good. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
Alright.
Opposed? Carries. All right, thanks, Lenny.
thanks, Lenny.
All right, see ya.
All right. Whew.
Yeah.
Everybody take a breath. We're going to move right on to the next item on the agenda, which is the downtown alley paving project. So, as you may remember, last year we had, with all the snow and plowing issues, we had business owners from the downtown alley come and request improvements upon that alley. So we We talked to KTM, got a bid for that for $55,000. This would be based on a 50-50 split between businesses based on frontage and the city. This is something that all the parties are still interested in having done. KTM can complete this work yet this fall, which is why we're looking to approve this today. So on the second to last page here, you'll see the cost breakdown for assessments per business or per landowner, and then what the city's cost for that would be. So that is the introduction. If anyone has any questions or any thoughts on this, now is a great time. Or if anyone feels strongly about this, we could have a motion.
I have a couple questions. So it said that in the memo, just that it was kind of pending whatever was going to happen with Birch Bark Gifts, right?
Right.
So now that they know what's happening there, what's the discussion, like, everybody's on board? The people that are going to be getting assessments, all the property owners that are affected by this have said, yeah, let's do it? Because I don't know, there wasn't a consensus back when the conversation first started.
It didn't seem like there was, so that's
The
why
one
I was-
that said no last time said yes this time.
Okay.
Everybody I talked to said yes. Are we waiting for any more, Patrick?
There's a couple people that I haven't heard back from yet. The Historical Society is the only one that I haven't heard back from.
Okay. They were in before. We haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay. They were in before, understanding it was a 50-50 split between the city and assessments.
We actually had $80,000 project budget when we talked about the original,
Okay.
so
So this is less.
this is less.
The only feedback I got on it was just the, mostly, I mean, it makes sense. The only way to undo it is by by frontage. I mean, that's the way it makes sense. But of course, you look at how it affects. The conversation I had was maybe not knowing this was happening yet this year, and some work being done to improve a parking lot that now, depending on how all this goes down, they're just nervous about what that'll do to what they did to their parking lot. And
It sounds like you had the same conversation I did.
probably,
So I mean, I don't think that we know exactly how everything's gonna match up, but we'll make sure that it does. Like, we're not gonna just go through and pave the alley and
As it
whatever's
sits.
next to it is not usable anymore.
Right.
That's not,
and I think the only other thing, which of course I described, like, I think the only way you can do this is a frontage, per foot frontage, versus like how it benefits your business.
we tried to talk about that other idea originally as one of the, we split them into high demand users and low demand users. All the methods that we might use are arbitrary. So I don't know that you can make a stronger case for one or the other. This one's a simpler case. It may not be better, but it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
So have we, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, what exactly is getting blacktopped? The alley and going,
To the highway?
The T
North.
alley, yeah,
yeah, but the split going north to Highway 61 also?
yes.
Okay. Because I saw some businesses in here that aren't along the alley, and I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, the alley, it's hard to tell right now with, cars and dumpsters and such.
Oh, I mean, I know it's.
Using it, but there's a public alley heading
Yeah.
north-south in the middle of
Right.
that block as well.
Right.
That will be
Right.
paved, and then once it's
Okay.
paved, we'll be making sure it isn't used for cars and dumpsters,
Okay.
so that it can serve its intended purpose.
Okay.
We're talking about grading away from the buildings and things. I know that was all part of the initial conversation to make sure that drainage was good and all
Yeah,
that sort of
we
stuff.
actually paid our
To have-
engineers
to
to do
engineer
survey
this.
work
Great.
and do a design, found that we've got, less than 2 feet of grade in the whole thing to work with, which is basically flat. And the intent is to pave an inverted crown, so just a V-shaped pavement, drain towards the middle of the alley. And it actually drains all three directions. So the high spot's kind of just west of the T heading north. And it drains east and west from there, and then
Into the
it
streets.
actually drains to the highway.
Great. Yep,
I mean, drains is maybe, it's really flat.
I remember
Kind of
having that
casually goes that
conversation,
way.
and that was definitely one of the problems that we had to solve. And I thought that the engineering solved it, so I'm glad to hear that we're sticking with that.
I think that was the largest concern that I had, was just making sure, like, if it's gonna happen, like, making sure it's like, doesn't create more of a mess. And I said, I don't know why we would do that. I think the engineers have looked at it and there's
Yeah,
a plan.
and KTM's a good operator, they know how to do this work, so.
Yep.
Done a bunch of other stuff around town. So we've got what we believe is consensus from the property owners to the project. We've got engineering. So what do we think about it?
Well, I'd make a motion to approve authorizing KTM to pave that alley.
All right, so there's a motion for the downtown alley paving project. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This and our new equipment, I'm hoping for, well, I'm hoping for, but I'm expecting we'll have a dry winter.
Oh, why would you say that? I mean, it's fair. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, wonderful. So we'll get KTM on that. We should see them working on it yet this fall.
Maybe even next week.
That'd be
Yeah, they just,
They were just in town.
They're in town still. We're in front of them right now, installing some conduit to bring three-phase power from a different transformer to the Birch Bark building, so
Oh, so
this
they're
was
working
part of
right
the
in that
issue.
area.
Like, we don't want to have to dig up the alley. But it's inevitable, though. If you go look, of course, because we're digging, we called for locate, and there's a lot of cans of paint that were used to do that locate.
I believe that.
There is a lot of stuff underground in that alley.
By the way, thank you for calling for a locate, so you
Yeah.
didn't cut any wires under the ground. That's a different conversation.
We don't, yeah.
Jay, can I just add?
Yeah.
As this project happens, and as Mike and I have talked, there will be discussion on waste removal, because there's 6 or 7 dumpsters back there that are truly sitting in the alley that will be
Yeah, for
paved.
sure.
And we kind of talked about what that looks like, and I also talked with one of the property owners for Birch Bark, Howard Hedstrom, and I said, I think that that's going to resolve itself as the alley gets paved, and then you realize it's a driving space, and that we might have to collaborate on sharing some dumpsters and working with North Shore Waste to eliminate a few.
Yeah.
And I'm just willing, as chamber director, to help out with that communication in any way I can.
Great. Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple of agreements that we'll just have to touch base on once this project is completed. So we definitely we'll be tapping into you for that, for sure.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving right along on our agenda. We've got the City Hall liquor store design quotes. So we put out for RFPs probably, what was that, a month ago, month and a half ago? Gosh, I can't even remember.
2 meetings ago, you authorized it.
Geez, was it that
It was.
soon?
It was a month ago.
yeah, it was a month ago.
Yeah.
Because we
Wow.
added some extra time to.
So we got 3 requests back, one from LHB, which is printed out in front of you, one from Architectural Resources Incorporated, and one from TKDA. These are all reputable firms that either the city or entities in the county have worked with in the past. And we have a similar expectation or line out of services that each of them will bring to the table, and a relatively wide variation in the price, from the high being LHB, which they...
I actually don't think that it is.
No, it's about the same.
It's about the same?
It might actually be lower.
Yeah, I mean, if you, because one of the other ones
Because of the
doesn't
levels.
include,
Oh, doesn't include the
Right.
final stages?
Well, the one where you can actually compare numbers to numbers, the other firm based it on a project budget that's quite a bit lower than the project budget LHB based it on.
Gotcha.
And so,
With
and they're
5.5
charging
to
a
7.
percentage based on that project budget, which we know is going to be low.
Gotcha.
Whereas LHB is actually just a number. It's not a percentage based on a budget.
But
They
even
think
if-
they know what the budget is, but they said this is the number that we'll do it for.
oh, okay. Yeah, because I was doing the percentage and it's about a 6, it's still, it's around that same price or percentage.
6%.
Yeah, it was 6.75.
There we go. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, ARI is 6.5 at a 4.9. And that's McGough's last decent look at it, but we know that, and McGough has told us as well, that there's been double-digit inflation both years since then in construction costs, so. We have a work
So
cut out
wait,
for us.
Did you say with LHB that that's what they're saying they're going to do it for?
Yeah.
Or are they,
Oh, North.
Yeah, they don't have a percentage.
I know they didn't throw a percentage in there, but,
They put a number in there.
yeah. So,
What they want to do,
There we
their
go.
big thing.
Yeah, so basically.
And they
what
didn't
we're-
say we won't exceed, but they said this is our construction budget.
So it looks like all of the different entities, yeah, okay, so now I'm looking at it the right way now, 6.5% of construction based on budget.
I remember Greg talking
Um,
about that.
And that is understanding the previous, the 2020 budget, oh, God. So basically, to get this whole thing cooked out architecturally and getting all of the planning done for it, we're looking at, something in the mid to high $300,000 range. Depending on the total budget, of course, or if we go with LHB, this would be the amount that they would do the project for.
Well, they're saying that, 7 million is the upper end of the number that they based that on.
Mike, have you seen any kind of quantitative differerences in the three that you want to bring up for us?
Looking at the way that they split up their costs, TKDA's got a pretty low fee compared to the other ones, and a big percentage of it is in review and modify the existing concept plan. So the actual price to do the design itself seems quite a bit lower than the other two firms. I'm not sure why that is, but they have a lot more budgeted in review and modify the existing concept plan, like twice as much as we spent on creating it. So I'm not sure what to think about that. It raises questions in my mind. It might be a good thing, we might decide we need that.
And which one was
But it
that?
might be TKDA.
okay.
It might be that there's a misunderstanding here too about what's left to think about.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my question tonight. I brought this up before, and I'm gonna bring it up again. I really wanna consider separating these two, and this looks like we're right back in putting this together. But you weren't here.
I wasn't here for that conversation, so,
The reason I brought that up is because I see City Hall as a long-term thing we definitely need. A retail operation may or may not be a long-term. I've decided I don't think it's maybe a good idea to have them adjoined.
so the last time you guys discussed that, what was the consensus that came up? Because this is a point that you've brought up many times in the conversations about this. So where did we leave this conversation at?
Well, I don't think we really did talk about it, other than when you were sending this out, Mike, I asked if that was still, a possibility or whatever, and you said yes. And now I see things coming back that I don't know then, where does this leave? We own property up there, I don't know, are we just gonna leave it all, or are we gonna actually move some stuff up there?
Yeah.
And I also brought up, is there still, could we just have a size enough left to have something worth selling, even here? Was my other
Yeah,
question.
I think
But
we were
don't
talking
know the
about that.
answer. It's truly just a question, is there enough with just a liquor store to make an offer out on somebody's property?
Yeah, of the firms I spoke with, that question I made sure they heard, and I think there's enough built into that stage, that re-look at the concept plan, to think about specifically, how small can we be on this site? Is there a space that's marketable left?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that would be potentially a reason why TKDA's made that section
I
so high.
didn't, strangely, I didn't talk to them about that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I did like to my mind, kind of what you were talking about, Tracy, is, somehow kind of, I like the idea of moving like the parking lot or out front here, those angles. I can't remember who was doing that, but I like that. And then also coming this way with the rest of the building and see if we couldn't make it narrower and have something left for somebody to do something with.
Something over there.
But unlike you, I would like the offices to stay down here.
Maybe
I also wonder, do we need a custom designed building? Can we get some kind of a, kit build, actual building, especially for City Hall, and then just put in what we need? I mean, are we spending a lot more money having all this extra? Is there a more cost-effective way to put a building?
And I would ask, is that a question that would be a part of the process led by an architect that we would be hiring?
Yeah, because I think
To try and understand options, to try and understand total cost of different options that we could move forward with. We have historically worked with LHB a lot on different projects. They have a lot of institutional knowledge about this project, but maybe that's not a good thing in the case if we want to rethink everything. We also, have to face the reality that the more we think about this, the more it's going to cost. The more that we
Right.
keep going through different ideas and different iterations of it, the more it's going to cost. So, if we have the questions of what does it all look like here, what does it look like split apart, what does it look like with the design building, what does it look like with the more standard building, those are all options that we can suss out with an architect for cost.
for sure.
And I'm not quite sure that that's within the scope of what I read in these proposals. So,
But at this juncture, I mean, we're picking between these three, like who we would like to be working with. Is that really what we're talking about? We're not actually
yeah,
getting into
we're
anything more than that.
picking services and
Yeah.
the firm.
Okay.
And my personal preference or my personal take on the three firms that we read or that I read the proposals for would be that I would feel most comfortable with LHB or TKDA. Did I say that right? Just the one with- TKDA.
Yeah.
Those would be one or the other that I would feel most comfortable with. So I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
I mean, I was most interested in LHB as well, and I guess that's just from working with them in co-op land, in Mississippi Market when I was there, it went up smashingly, and I don't know, they just seem like they've done the kinds of work that we need done, especially when we're talking about building out the liquor store. It seems like that's something they could do well. So I was inclined towards that. And TKDA, I was looking here, is that they're not including the mechanical and electrical engineering at all. So that's something that LHB is including.
And so is ARI.
Including?
They're
They're
including
including
that.
it? Okay. I guess with AR, I just didn't see the kinds of work that we want done being part of their wheelhouse, but that's just my opinion.
ARI was the architect on the library remodel, and they were the architect on Bathhouse 4.
They could do the bathrooms.
And both of those were a while ago now. I don't know if it would be the same personnel, but
How did the budgets work out on bathhouse dump? Wasn't that $400,000 bathhouse?
yeah,
It's pretty expensive.
it's an object lesson in construction budget from start to finish is all that is. Don't even bring up a number until you've got a bid is probably the way to do it.
Well, I think that's the part that kind of threw me a little bit on the ARI is looking at, I mean, and maybe it's just a square footage number that they've calculated in, but, you know, what they're, in order for them to come up with their fee schedule, right? They're coming up with a project construction estimate base of like 4.9. Which, I mean, again, is out of, from McGough, so they're kind of reusing the information that we already had and already said was, is that really where McGough was at, was 4.9? I feel like that was substantially higher than that, and that's where we were like pumping the brakes.
Well, we did, you know, at that stage, bring the size of the building down. It was more like 16,000 square feet with the initial budget. We brought it down to 14,400 before we were done with the concept. And then
I don't know if that's what I don't, maybe like their suggestions for value engineering and this or changes that they would make if they are also reducing it further yet, to maybe come up with that's how they came up with.
You mean how they got to the 4.9?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty specific to come up with 4964119 as a number.
I mean, I assume that it's mostly based on
Historicals.
McGough's numbers.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, 2020, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, we don't know what the total cost is going to be because we don't know what the budget for the project is going to be until we get a bid for it. And if LHB
Yeah.
is saying they're going to do it for this number, you know.
Well, they're all going to give you a little bit of flex on that, and I think it's negotiable with any of them. And we said this, and I know we always say this, and rarely do we really mean it, is price is not the most important factor. In this case, it really can't be because we just don't know what the price is. And it's more about approach and team and experience.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to look at these groups, and frankly, they're all decent, qualified firms, so.
So which one gives you the best feeling about the engagement that we're looking for? You know, sussing out the project that we want to get. What can we all agree on is the firm that we want to go with?
You can ask them to come talk to you if you want. We did suggest you might do interviews
We did that last time, didn't
if you want to pitch. I mean, when we hired LHB, we just had them come talk to us. We didn't actually do an RFP. We haven't done a RFP for anything since we hired LHB as our engineer for this type of service.
Or are there just like one or two you'd want to talk to, or is it everyone
it's-
has a pretty cler cut already? I mean, if there was
I mean, it's
only
up to
one or
us.
two. No, I know, I just meant, not like I would say, oh, let's bring all of them, but if there was just one we're really close about it, would you want to talk to? Or not really? Or is everyone pretty set about what they think?
I think it would probably be a useful exercise to talk to So, like, for example, if we wanted to narrow it down to two, like if there was one that we all were kind of like, meh, not really feeling that one, then we don't even have to bother asking that one to come and talk.
Right.
But then it would be
That's right.
nice to have one come, and then we can hit them with the questions about, like, look, this is where we're at with the project. You know, we've got these things that we want to consider. How would you address these concerns or these situations? And then we get a clear idea of the process that they would be engaged in. I think that would make it a pretty clear decision to, for who we feel most confident would be able to lead the process successfully, Does that make sense? Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So if we're able to do that, then we can make that request for a future meeting, and then we can, make that happen.
Right. Or are we, is it not a,
Well, if we all can agree on one,
Yeah.
then we don't have to do that.
Who's gonna say it first?
Who's going to say it first? Anybody have any strong, should we just go down the line? Craig, what's your strongest feeling? What do you think? We're going to put you on the spot.
I put forward LHB. I do think they would do a good job. I wouldn't have no reservations about them doing it.
Craig, you have any ideas about that? Any thoughts about any of the three of them? I mean, if you look at their portfolios are pretty similar. I don't know.
All I have in front of me is LHB.
Oh, the other ones
Oh.
were emailed out,
Yeah.
so maybe we do need to take a little bit more time.
Yeah, I got my packet, but when did they get emailed out? With the packet?
Last week before the packet.
Right before the packet.
Okay.
I'm with you, Michael. I think LHB do a fine job. We had a very successful project with that team, McGough and LHB, to build a public works garage.
Yeah.
Familiarity is worth something there. And if we've got issues with the design, I know that they will take our feedback.
I would agree as well that LHB feels the most comfortable to go with. That's one of the things that I did appreciate about the TKDA proposal, was that it seemed like it was more open-ended. And that, could be taken as a pro and maybe as a con too, but familiarity is awesome, and they have the most knowledge of this project thus far. If we wanted to look at it with some fresher eyes, TKDA would be my second choice for that. So, anyone else? Thoughts? Snide remarks?
I think, I like TKDI. And I guess that's, I feel like I don't necessarily have anything against LHB, I just feel like we've kind of gone, on this project, we've gone round and round, and maybe that's because of us and because of pandemic and because of everything else, right? So I feel like maybe it might be better to get them back involved, because we've already had all those conversations. We'd have to refresh all of our minds, I think, on why we talked about certain changes. Looking at the projects that the TKDI put out, I appreciate what they shared and the things that they've done. I think the biggest thing for me on the, is it ARI? That's the other one? Or ARI? ARI. To me, I just totally don't like that they even included some sort of drawing. I don't like it at all, so it just makes me not as interested, if that's, which isn't fair.
It's a bold choice.
It's bold.
Yeah.
We got enough lighthouses in town. So, that's, which again, I know that they obviously felt like they wanted to put something out there,
For sure.
so.
Well, Tracy, do you have any feelings about these?
so far I would say T.
TKDA.
Aye.
Is it TKDI? I thought
It's
it was
A.
TKDA.
It is
I thought
A?
it was A. Okay, whew, good. I was like, my brain is playing tricks.
My
on
bad,
me.
sorry, you're right.
For once.
It's
One
ARI.
Oh,
Right,
TKDA.
TKDA, ARI,
My fault.
LHB,
Mr. Anderson forgives you.
YMCA.
Or, or LHB.
Yes.
Um,
Well, maybe here's a proposal, and we can entertain this, we can say yes, we can say no, we can keep talking about it. Why don't we reach out to LHB and TKDA and say, hey, we want you to come to the next meeting. We're gonna put together questions about what we want the process to look like, or questions that we need you to answer. And we're gonna ask you at that meeting, and then you're gonna tell us how you would solve that problem. And then we're going to make a decision based on those answers. If we do that, that puts a date on it. It gives us some time to create, or like to formulate our questions and the things that we need to ask about. And then we can have answers at that particular time from the people who would be the project managers on the project. I think that would probably make it really clear between those two which one is more compatible with the process that we want to see happen. Does that seem to work for people? Just throwing it out there. Or we can keep talking about it if we're close to a decision.
How do you feel, Trace?
I don't have a real strong one way or the other, so if someone
Okay.
has real.
I think when we're looking at this kind of money, I think and the fact that we've kind of
Yeah.
come and gone with this project a number of times, I think it would be nice to talk with them and ask them the questions personally. We want to make sure that we're getting into we're going to be working with a firm that we understand the process that they're talking about as well. So if that works for everyone, I would propose that we invite them to come to the next meeting or to a meeting in the future. I don't think I'm going to be at the first meeting of October, so probably not that one. But I say we invite them to come back to a meeting, and then we can ask them the questions, and then we can make a decision after that. I mean, that could just be. they can
Typically,
zoom in.
we would want to do a separate special meeting where they each have a scheduled time that they can come and spend with you,
Right.
rather than have everybody sit in the back here while you're grilling them both.
Right.
Or do they want to be just remote? Yeah.
I'm sure they would be happy to be here if you asked them, or remote, if that
I
would
think we
work
could
better.
probably do remote, but
Yeah, I mean, that's
it
fine
seems
with
more
me.
flexible.
I think the bigger question for me is, do you have any questions? And how much time will you need to formulate them? And how much time will we give them to formulate their answers before they come up here?
Yeah.
So, I'm glad to hear that you're not thinking about next meeting, because I don't believe that's realistic. Unless you all have questions tonight that I can send them.
Nope, I certainly don't. Craig, any thought?
I think it's a good idea to talk, if we're gonna choose an avenue here, I think that talking to both of them, like you said, this is
It's a big
it's a
decision.
substantial amount of money for this project, and it's just keeps getting more and more every time we have a talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not gonna get cheaper.
And ultimately, once you get a bid and you have a number on the piece of paper, then you have to make a decision whether you're gonna go ahead with this thing or
Sure.
not.
Yeah.
You also have to make a decision on certain things as far as budgeting. Getting to that point is gonna cost some money. Preliminary stuff that you have to commit to for them to do work on it.
Mhm.
Maybe one company has a better way of doing that than the other, I don't know. I mean, I see LHB's presentation here to get started,
Yeah, for sure.
And
And this is pretty familiar. This is something that
Right.
that this is pretty familiar to me based on the other projects we've done with LHB. So yeah. So Mike, how would you propose, like, what does the process look like? So it's easy enough to have Patrick send us all an email being like, send me your questions for the architects. And then
The hardest part is getting us to respond to Patrick with those questions.
Well, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling like you have a lot of burning questions right now, you might not come up with some. It might not be a worthwhile process to just have to come up with some.
Right.
I have a number.
I also think, just in general, interviews are not good tools to determine performance of a firm or an employee. They're a good tool to figure out if there's like a personality fit. That might be useful here because, one of the questions is, how do we move forward on this? And having a group that can help you feel comfortable moving forward is invaluable. And clearly, you're not comfortable yet. So if you have questions, that's where my mind goes, is what questions do you have about ways that you can be more comfortable moving forward? Whether it's the size of the building or different ways you might arrange the different uses, or are you going to have City Hall here at all? Just, whatever your questions are that get you to that place where you feel like you can actually move forward on this project, that's what I want the questions to be.
And I know it's who they are, but when you read these, there's always that focus on, not really aesthetics is the right word, but it kind of is. I mean, not just the building aesthetics, but all of it. It's like, no, at this point, I just need a super functional building from which to sell liquor from, and then functions fine for the small uses we have in City Hall. Like when they talk about, we need this great welcoming space for City Hall and people doing business with this. Like, no, we don't have a lot of, we don't have a bunch of departments like a larger City Hall is. This is a very small request of what we need other than a nice size meeting space. And do you recognize you're dealing with a small town that's dealing with a large budget item? We have to watch this carefully. Make sure this function well, is energy efficient, all those pieces. And I never see that come through when they do that.
Yeah, we'll have to get them there. I mean, any of them, we'd have to get them to that place.
I think that's
not
true.
That's not where they're starting from.
You're right, and that's always the hard part. So then I have to wonder, do you really understand what you're being asked to do or who we are? Or
to be fair, we're offering some mixed messages. When we want it to be low maintenance and energy efficient, that's not necessarily simple or cheap either. So there's some competing interests.
But that's different than this whole, the aesthetic part of it, or...
Yeah, I look at LHB's design and think there are some parts about it I might change, but I don't see anything on it that strikes me as particularly elaborate or fancy. It's pretty bare bones. So that's kind of where, what I hear you saying is, what we want to shoot for is not elaborate or fancy, but pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else to do to simplify it.
And one of the things that also would be, that is, in our past experience working with LHB, that's in their favor, is that when we worked with them on the Public Works facility, they understood that we were talking about a garage, and they, we were able to remove a lot of features from the original plan that were unnecessary.
It looks kind of like the original plan to me, and it's pretty right sized too. It's already being fully
But I remember there were a
utilized.
bunch of frilly stuff that they put in there that we were like, no, we don't need that, and then we took it off and it saved a little bit of
I
money.
don't remember it being that, because the message was always,
Well, it's just,
Concrete box, please.
just how they approach it and how they
Yeah.
write it up. It gives you that feel, and I know that's part
yeah,
of who
pictures
are,
they
their
include in it,
position.
and
Hmm?
all the pictures that you have in here of, giving you an idea of the spaces they design, and is that the look we're going for? And
So anyways, it just makes you wonder, do you get what our real intent is? Because obviously, still to put in a long-lasting building it's an investment, I get that. And for the key pieces you want, energy efficiency will help in the long run. But, beyond that,
Well, see right here too. Phase 1, preliminary design. Confirm the desired design direction. That's something you want to say fast 3 times. Desired design direction for the buildings. Oh,
the S is in parentheses.
buildings. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Does anybody have any problems with LHP? I mean, should we just pick LHP and get this?
I don't have any problems with
And if we're not,
LHP.
we know that they're gonna listen. They obviously, from where we started in that process, we were on H, G, or H in our revisions.
Yeah.
Right, last time around.
Yeah.
And so clearly, they came back every time with the feedback that we gave them to, manipulate the design, manipulate the square footage. Again,
Right.
some of that related to costs, some of it related to what we actually needed, some of it related to partner space, which evaporated, the need for it evaporated, so. I mean, if again, you look through costs of the design phase of the project, like the pre-construction side, like it seems pretty much apples to apples. If you take into account the fact that those other ones maybe didn't include things, you can make some assumptions that obviously that's gonna get added back in somewhere. So, I mean, if folks are, if it's a good relationship and we came in under budget on the garage, right?
We did.
Which is,
Only time I've ever seen that happen.
so if there's a strong partnership and willingness for those two, the McGough and LHB to work together, they have, I mean, I don't have anything against them, I mean, part of me, again, that side of like, well, should we have fresh eyes, but it's like, maybe we shouldn't, because then we have to,
Start over with
start all over again.
educating someone.
I have no problem with going with LHB. I think they've always done good work. They've always been responsive. Whenever we have these conversations, I typically like to throw all the options out there just to make sure that we feel like we're making the right decision. I don't think that we would be making a wrong decision if we went with LHB.
In the interest of improving our communication with them in our relationship to make sure this is successful, multiple folks asked me, including LHB, but not only them, why did we ask for proposals? And was there something that they did wrong? And I answered, well, I don't know. I don't think so. We haven't done the project yet. And to me, like, the fact that we didn't do it is the main reason why we're looking at our options. But I can't point at any one thing about the process or the design or anything else that they did and say, that's the reason we don't want to work with you. That's just me. So is that true for you all as well, or is there a reason that we need to make sure they know about if we're going to move forward with them?
I see what you're saying. For me, I don't have any hard feelings towards LHB. For me, it was the simple, like the simple reality of the fact that everything got derailed so far with the pandemic in the last couple of years that it was impossible to get footing on anything to start moving forward. Now we feel like we finally are getting footing again, and it's all 2 years away. Like, it was all 2 years ago that we were having these conversations. It feels like we have to get ourselves back up to speed and also get an architect back up to speed to necessary evolutions in the project and in the budget that have happened over the last 2 years with the financial realities that we're facing, which are slightly different than in 2020, and also just a change in attitude, that potentially has happened. We need to bring those things back into the conversation. We didn't get anything done in the last couple of years because we couldn't. Now we're trying to. Well, we got plenty of stuff done.
Got plenty of stuff done.
But that was stuff that we had going 5 years before that, so.
Well, I wasn't here, so it's not like I had
For sure.
any real thing with LHB from before.
Okay.
What do we think?
Craig, you still want to read some of the other stuff outside of this meeting?
No,
So then should I make a motion to work with LHB?
Well, I think
is that what
LHB
we-
kind of says it in
is
their
anybody-
little paragraph here about how things have changed, and they really want to meet with us to discuss with us
Yeah.
what things have changed
Mhm.
and how it might impact,
This project.
yeah,
Yeah.
moving ahead with this. Obviously, we know it's dollars and cents, but, you know, maybe there's some design things that we didn't consider, or we should consider. I mean, I know we scaled it back more than once, twice, once.
I think.
I know we took out that meeting area, we took out the stuff on the back, we
Yeah.
took out the walkthrough. I mean, we did stuff to scale it down.
Yeah.
A number of times.
A number of times, yeah. But I mean, the other thing I think, I don't know if we paid them, well, we did pay some attention to the bathrooms, but I'm not sure if we paid enough attention to the bathrooms. 'Cause I think those are an important part of the building.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, so.
The public
Public
restrooms.
The public
yeah.
restrooms, yes, that are gonna be part of the
Design.
two buildings.
Whatever this structure would be.
Yeah. But I mean, the original concept and how it was laid out, I didn't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody else did, but other than, I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, other than when you put it on this land,
Mhm.
you know, the biggest thing is, one of the biggest things is keeping the business operational while you're doing this.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
liquor store, that's something to think about. Maybe they have suggestions for that. I know they did, but.
I mean, I've had that conversation, I've attempted to have that conversation with all of the people that have been involved in this, and I think we're mostly on our own here.
Okay.
I mean, the concept is similar, but the details are all up to us.
Yeah.
We need to find an alternate location, figure out how to set it up, and run what we can of a liquor store while this site's being used. But we're gonna have to be off this site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a trick.
It's been done.
Yep.
A true big tent, what was,
Big Ten Chautauqua.
well, there's that, but.
Big
no-
Top Liquor is a very nice store.
Yeah,
right
there
there.
we
Big
go.
Top
That's
Liquor.
what- Big Top
Not what we're
Liquor.
going for. Not what we're going for.
They don't use a tent either.
I know.
That was what I was thinking
Definite
of.
misnomer.
Do they still exist?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they do, okay.
There's one in Egan anyway, I think.
Wow.
I don't know.
Great. Well,
Are you making that motion?
I mean, I
Or
want
is
to
it a
make sure
motion?
that, I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with that, but that's where I'm leaning towards. And so if no one says anything in the next 5 seconds to drive us in another way, that you feel like you need more time, or you feel like we should ask more questions, then I will go ahead and do that. What do we think?
5.
No, the 5's
Not
up.
the-
He kept talking throughout the 5 seconds.
You can put it down, you can put your
Smart.
date on anytime you want. Well, I'm gonna assume that we're gonna get a quality process from LHB. And I'll make a motion that we go with LHB to move forward on the project.
I'll
So there's a
second it.
motion. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay, cool. So we'll reach out to LHB.
Do we
We'll
have
get-
a second thing?
Hmm?
What?
He seconded it.
Oh, sorry, say that one. I didn't hear that.
It's quick.
It was fast.
Yeah.
Hey, 4, 5.
The objective was achieved, I wasn't listening.
That wasn't the objective. So I have a request of the council, because you guys are going to be doing some scheduling for a discussion for the continuing discussions about the North House relationship. My request is, can we flip the council and staff reports? So then we do council and staff reports, then I can just excuse myself and I don't have to be here for that. Does that work?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So we'll do council and staff reports.
Craig will be
Craig,
mayor.
you're up.
Yeah, last night we just had a meeting with Parks and Trails, and I guess they never, well, the county did budget for a, and I can't think of it now, what the heck.
Talking about the position that they've got?
Yeah, there's a
open?
position that, they haven't really, they never filled the position, but they are, I guess Tim is going before the commission because they did budget money for it. And we're hoping that they can continue and fill that position as soon as they can. They're doing some creative ways of maybe through certain fees on some of the things that they're working on with the VRBO structure within the county, that they might be able to provide dollars for that position without using tax dollars. Actually, it'd be funded by fees, but anyway, there was some talk about the dog park. That's been pretty successful and well used. A lot of people are happy of how that turned out. We did talk about the Snowmobile pull tab thing. I knew they were going to be here. There's talk about a potential trestle connector trail moving forward with that, and that connects that trail that goes around the backside of Trestle Pine Lake and maybe bring it back up to the grade. There's about 10 acres of land in that area that they need to cross over. That's federal land. They're working, the DNR and the state, they're working on that. Whether that comes to fruition or not, I'm not sure, but it would be a neat thing to have because it's another way to go north other than having to go all the way up the Gulfin Trail and come in and come all the way back down. So that would be a neat trail, a connector trail. There was some talk about the Sawtooth Bluffs, but I got to get myself up to speed on that whole the original project of how that was, you know, set up. But I know the dog park is kind of part of that, and it just keeps, you know. So I think there's some ideas of camping. I don't know. Is somebody who's approaching this camping? Have you heard about that?
We are.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't know whereabouts, but then we also have another, of course, that's private land, that thing that we talked about.
We'll be on your agenda again next week.
Okay. So anyway, how this is all gonna tie into
The zipline property too.
into that. What else did we talk about? I think that's pretty much about it. I mean, we did talk about, well, the VRBOs, licensed VRBOs in Cook County, or in, yeah, Cook County, it's 358 licensed VRBOs in Cook County. And so that, they just finished, they just had their last meeting on that, project that they just completed, and they're bringing that before the commissioners now. So there'll be a new ordinance, and fees will be probably being recommended changing on licensing of VRBO. So that will be coming out here probably after the next county meeting. Okay, I guess that's all I have on. My other meetings were prior to the last city council meeting, so.
I don't have anything.
Cool. Anton, I was hoping that you could do planning and zoning since you were there.
But it was before the last meeting.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's already been updated.
Oh, it was already?
I already
Yeah.
did it.
Oh my God, that's right. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was weeks ago.
That was weeks ago.
Right.
That was great to watch.
Well, thank you, Craig, for that report. Anton, you said you didn't have anything? Tracy?
I just have one thing, update on the administrator Job description and review. I've taken a cursory look through and met with them, and I'm going to say not very well done. So we met, I gave him a big picture of what we were really looking for. I said, I'm going to give you like a revamped start. And my other question, we can talk about this, Mike, because I don't know the process, but I think it's time we maybe spend just a little bit of money and get an HR consultant in to help draft a really better job description and review process, like, evaluation one that I would expect that someone could actually provide meaningful feedback. So I think the better step would have probably been to bring them in on a review to make sure in a position like this that everything was followed correctly. I think the actual design and write-up should probably be done by an HR person. Give me feedback on that. They're very pleasant. We had a great conversation. They really appreciated the oversight of what we were trying to achieve here. And so that was all very, very well. And I did promise them I would get them a better draft to work from. It could be just better.
Cool. All right, cool, thank you. I had a post-board meeting since the last meeting. That was another one where they're going over, really, I mean, I wouldn't say struggling with policy, but really spending a lot of deep time thinking about the impact of policy decisions on not just the people who are impacted by law enforcement activities, as far as some of the violent actions that have happened, but also on the ability to actually provide law enforcement. It's a strange balance because the line gets really blurry when you have violent offenders, in the mix too. So it's been a really complicated conversation, and it's a really invested crew. So I really do appreciate that coming from that. And there hasn't been a lot that's been accomplished, although we did make some decisions on certain steps that officers needed to take throughout the entire process. So that was it's hard to update on this stuff because it's deep. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and it gets pretty wonky. But the bottom line is the process of protecting law enforcement while they're providing the services that they provide is sometimes flies in the face of protecting people from bad actors. So it's a really complicated conversation. Also, I've been having some preliminary conversations with folks over at the county about agreements that are mutual aid agreements and such, and that's been largely just setting foundation work. We haven't started talking about how those could be revised at all. That's something that we'll bring Mike in, and we'll have a lot more in-depth discussion about budgetary impact and stuff like that. We've already set our preliminary budget for 2023, so we can expect there won't be any dramatic changes for 2023 with those agreements. So that's about it. Michael?
Great. Yeah, we had a library meeting that was very brief. There were basically two big things you probably know about, but the library did lose about 80 to 100 hours of staff time, and so they've had to reduce their times that they're actually open. They're closing on Mondays, and they're closing earlier on Wednesdays. So Wednesday evening is no longer a thing. Hopefully they did hire somebody though, so hopefully this won't be for too long, but it's going to be a process of hiring more people and training and that kind of thing. And then having to do with the building, of course, they're still working on that. What did she say? They took out the last of the outdoor cooling units, and now they've got Northern States Basement Systems excavating, which they probably already started.
They're out there digging.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a good mess.
It's a good mess.
Yeah. And then she said that they're a day or two behind on the indoor work that they're doing there, but she said it looks like it's going great. It looks good what is done, so she's happy about that. And that is the report.
Very cool. Anything from you, Mike? Anything from Kim? Oh, I don't know if Kim can talk.
She can talk.
All right, so I will leave you to discuss the scheduling for further discussion on the North House agreements. I appreciate all of the hard work tonight and the considerations for the things that we had before us. We had a lot of financial stuff in front of us tonight, so I very much appreciate that we were able to get through it. So, all
Very good.
right, I will excuse myself.
Thanks, Jay.
Yes, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
I'll go home and get some ice cream.
Awesome. So just as a check-in on where we're at on this conversation, when I sent Greg the invitation, I intended for it to be, come and tell us about your plans. And when he responded, it sounded like, let's have a conversation. And I'm not sure if that's where you were at. So what I thought you wanted was to hear from them about their plans, then to be able to spend some time talking to yourselves about what you want, and then have a conversation. So, was I right? Did I miss something? Did they miss something? Where are we at here?
Well, my understanding was at some point when they were ready, they could come to a city council meeting, and like they've done in the past, and present what their larger plans were, not just one classroom building, but kind of like you see in that picture. And as we talked about that one night, and you summarized, you know, that the whole community would appreciate understanding your big picture plans. And then we could have a working session and decide what components we need out of a lease, which not all of those necessarily have anything, to me, to do with North House. That just whatever we do with the property, how we view it. And then, yeah, have a session and meet with them, which I think is what you just said, but I just want to
Okay.
say it quickly, and then you guys can say what you were thinking.
So you want to get their broad overview of what all they're doing, so not just on the property that we're involved with. Is that what you're saying, Trace?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the community would like to have a good understanding, not just in little isolation of one. Yeah.
And what I asked for from your conversation last time was information on how the campus expansion will impact neighborhood density, will impact access to the lake, will impact views, will impact parking. Those are the things that I picked up from your conversation. So,
Did you get feedback from them on that?
they'd be happy to come talk to you about it.
That's where
You
I'm
got
at.
feedback
I
from
mean, I
them.
guess that's what.
Yeah.
Still, it's like, okay, like, let's hear.
So,
How
should we
we
pick a
can
day
do
where they
this.
can come and provide us with that information?
Outside of normal city council meeting?
It wouldn't have to be.
I think it should be at a city council meeting. I just was wondering.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Jay's gone next, the first meeting in October, it sounds like.
Perfect. We'll invite them.
Are they ready? I didn't know.
Yes,
like,
they
before-
Greg is
said,
always ready.
Going-
schedule a work session the week of October 4th
Yeah,
to
but
7th.
that's not what we want.
Yeah.
So are they ready to give their plans, or, I thought they were like going back to rethink things. Maybe not, they're still,
We've already done that.
oh, okay.
Well,
all
I
right.
mean, Greg's email says, "We believe a dedicated work session focused on our future plans and core ideas for advancing our partnership, improving the lease, can set the stage for productive negotiations." I think just slightly modifying that thought to say, it's going to be a little one-sided this first time, where we need more information from you before we feel like we can continue the conversation. And if they were ready to go the week of October 4th, then October 12th hopefully will work.
Yep.
And
that's
I'll
fine.
reach out to them tomorrow and see.
Yeah, as long as they know it's not a working session, or, you know,
Yeah.
it's just to ask. To me, that's kind of similar like they do when they give their annual
They're up there.
thing, right?
Whatever, yeah.
So, but a little bit broader, because because we're really asking for
That,
that.
which has not been presented.
And
Okay.
are we asking, or is the idea that we're gonna be talking about the lease then?
No. No, they're just
Okay.
presenting.
I mean, you can talk about whatever you want, but I don't know that the council has had enough time to talk to yourselves about what you want to say in order to have a good conversation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was saying, we have to have a work session, for me anyways, about
To know what
what
we
do we
want.
need to do about a lease,
Yeah.
period, no matter
Yeah.
who it is. And I know Chris had mentioned there's things we should be looking at in revamping a lease.
Right,
There's a, yeah.
yeah, okay, good.
We can get our stuff from Chris, we can get information from them, and then we can have our conversation, and then be able to have the conversation with them.
I mean, I've got a markup of the lease that Chris prepared
Yeah, that'd be
a
nice.
number of years ago that, I don't know, Chris, if that's probably where to start, and I could share that with the council right now, and they could get an idea of the types of issues that you had just legally with the lease.
Sure, yeah, you could. It's getting pretty far in the weeds on that, but you at least could get a feel for some of the technical issues. I don't think that's something that you really need to spend a lot of time on, but you could look
Yeah, I
at it
don't either.
and at least get a flavor of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think too, as a group, I think we need to decide how we really envision that land looking, being space-wise, used, the whole deal, no matter who that lease ends up with. I'm not saying it wouldn't be North House, but just trying to think, not just constantly say it's about North House. It's like, if this is our land, how do we want it to look or function or whatever? In a sense that sets priorities, and obviously it's North House we'll be dealing with, but,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I guess you're right, like, right now it suits our purposes, but what do we want going forward?
yeah, big picture. It's,
Okay.
Okay,
does that make, or does somebody else have another way they thought this would go forward? Are we missing anything?
Greg, did you have a different idea?
No, I think that's fine. I just think, since if you're gonna talk about the land itself, I mean, I think the city needs to figure out, okay, the North Laos has built on it since they've occupied it. We've gave them the right and permission to do that, to do the buildings that they've done. And, we're just gonna, and this is a conversation I've had with Greg too, is like, well, what happens when you're running out of space, right? I mean, I know they want to build on the parking lot part, they want to put a building there. I'm not too certain everybody here thinks that's a good idea, or maybe it is a good idea, I don't know. I mean, I think we have the right to control the growth on it, we have the right to control certain aspects of the property since we own the property, but, that's the discussion we need to have with them is, how do you feel you're moving ahead with this? What do you want to do? What can we be a partner in helping you or guiding you or,
Well,
I've always talked about what happens when you're very successful, you're doing a great thing down there, but if you want to keep expanding and growing and building more buildings, you're left to do what you've done, and that is to buy property adjacent, other side of the road, next to, or wherever, to build upon. Well, I think that those are the questions that, they're ideas of how they want to grow, we need to know because it affects the land that the city has there, that they're on. That's part of the conversation. The other part of the conversation, of course, is when Greg mentioned to, talk about the lease, the policy, and have an updated 2023 type lease going forward into the next 25 years or how many years they want.
well, that's another, there's all sorts of things like, how long do we really want to set a lease to last
Right.
for?
So,
And do we want to get locked into a super long lease or not? I don't know if that's smart. That's a question, I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I compartmentalize all those things you said. That's why they need to come, I think, to a meeting and say what their plan is. But then separately from that, we need to decide how we want that land to be. You know, forget if it, whatever their plans are, how do we view that plot of land and what should be done or not done with it?
Right.
And then we can, once we have a priority or criteria, or, you know, whatever, then we can go back and start having that conversation and put it together, I think, with them. But if we don't know where we stand,
Yep.
there's no sense sitting there with them in the picture trying to figure it out. You know, there's a certain amount I think we need to sit down and agree upon and then start that conversation and
Yep.
see how it all comes together. I think there's lots of out of the box ways to still make this all work, and maybe that's part of the creative process to get there.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be the way we're just thinking. I mean, I keep challenging myself to think of other ways to make this work than this, how we're plotting along right now, that works for everyone.
Fair enough.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Any other discussion on anything we talked about tonight? I'll bring up one thing on blacktopping, because I had my driveway done today, and KTM is going to be around for another week, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're going to do the border office building. And I did mention to the gentleman today about the cut that they just did in front of the Betsy Bowen building.
Oh.
Did you guys plan on having that blacktop?
That's her responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't, is that something that the city will require to have blacktop before winter? Or do we want that to be gravel all the
Yeah,
time?
it should be fixed.
Okay, so then they don't, I don't think he knew about that? Getting blacktop? So I'm just.
Good to know, thanks.
I'm just throwing that out to you now
Yeah.
because tonight I saw the alley is gonna be done. So if they're gonna come back, they're only coming back up here like maybe one more time and then they're done.
Yeah.
Until next summer, so
Yep.
I'm just thinking. I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, that's all I have. I guess we're done, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, so like, who's
Yeah, I wasn't sure.